Let's welcome in our morning guest at this moment. Lancelot D'Cunha is joining us. Shrikant Shetty is with us. Lavlesh Sharma, research head at Epic Research Private Limited, is also now joining us. Lancelot, let's start with you. Before we go to your top picks, markets, what do you expect in the real estate sector? You think it will continue to be one of the most buzzing sectors?
Well, it's difficult to say whether it will continue to remain buzzing. Of course, we did see a boost yesterday on the back of maybe some short covering, as well as the fact that it's been a beaten down sector, and so everybody has under-owned that sector, and now with some kind of demand creeping in for some real estate stocks, you might see some people get into adding some of the real estate stocks to their portfolio, and that could give a boost to the stock prices a bit. But the fundamentals of the sector aren't really going to change overnight, because it's a question of also demand and price catching up with the profitability getting impacted by the new rules that have been laid down for developers. So I think it's going to be a while before you start seeing large profits or profit growth from these companies creep in. But at the same time, because of this under-owning issue and people trying to buy in cheap, you might see a little bit of continued up move from these levels.
Right. The point that you made, that rules are likely to change from 1st May, that is the RERA, that the act that you're pointing out to. It may have an impact for 3 to 6 months, but then you believe developers will adjust to the changes quite soon?
Yes, I think while the developers will adjust to changes and the short-term impact may be seen in some of the projects, the issue is that the kind of super profits that developers enjoyed in the past, where they could actually make a very small investment and the rest of the money on the project was completely funded by the people who invested in the project, and the kind of returns that they were able to generate were far higher than what is likely to be going forward. So if returns normalize to levels of maybe 20-25% on a project basis, as compared to 50-60% earlier, it will have an overall impact on the profitability as well as on the valuations of these companies. So while you may see that the developers will get adjusted to these, I think there's a structural change where now developers have to live with lower profit margins and look at higher volumes and that way sustain their profit growth.
Right. Lancelot, could you also tell us about your top picks?
Well, I think in this kind of a market, it's the beaten down sectors are, where one should look at. So I think, a company like Ashok Leyland has actually corrected quite a bit. It has come off its highs, and due to the recent BS3 ban on vehicles, but the company has announced that it's strategically, it has about 10,000 unsold vehicles, of which it will export about 2,000 to the Asian and African countries, which will take care of that. They will increase the price of the existing vehicles by 10% and put in BS4 engines, which will resolve that issue. So there will be a very marginal impact on the on the profitability for this particular BS3 ban. Going forward, I think the volatility on the earnings as well as the sales front is going to get compensated, because they are going to increase exports from 10 to 25%, especially in African countries where they are pretty dominant. Plus, you could see some defense orders coming in. They've been, they were winners in almost 12 out of the 14 tenders that were issued in the defense sector. So, given that valuations are pretty reasonable, I think if one buys into this stock for a 2 to 3 year horizon, you could see 20-25% return from these levels. The other stock that I think one can look at in this kind of a market would be Lupin. The pharmaceutical sector has been impacted quite a bit because of the regulatory issues, but I think we are coming to the bottom of that regulatory compliance action by the US Fed, as the Indian companies will start beginning to improve their standards and bring their levels up to comply with the norms laid down by the US FDA. So we will start seeing improvement in the valuations as the pickup in sales, etc. happens. While there is increased competition in the US market because of the so many companies who have come in, and various new drugs are being put off patent. So that becomes a tough call for Lupin. It may affect them for a quarter or two because they have a large pipeline of new drugs that are in the pipeline, and that I think would be positive for them.
All right. Shrikant, good morning. What are your top picks?
Good morning. We're looking at ranged markets. We're looking at sectors which we had continued to like. From trading perspective, we're going to call on JSW Steel and Reliance. Those are the stocks which are going good from a trading perspective. But from investment perspective, we continue to like the financials, the housing finance space. Within the financials, would continue to like SBI, ICICI Bank among the larger names. In the housing finance names, would be continue to look positive on DHFL. I think these are from investment point of view. These are the spaces which continue to look good.
All right. So topics coming in from Shrikant. Lavesh, good morning. What are your top picks?
Very good morning. We are quite upbeat on the banking sector as in perspective. Right now, all the banks are looking good. Specifically, if you look at the PSU banks, I think very fresh breakouts has been seen. Somewhere the sideways momentum is there, but going forward, we believe that the strategy should be buy or decline. So we are upbeat on SBI at current levels. We still believe that there is still more upside left in this particular stock. Looking at the charts, we believe that 305, 307 should be achievable in the next couple of sessions, I believe. And second stock we are bullish on is Petronet LNG. This particular stock has been overall bullish in this overall March, and we can expect the same in April series as well. It's trading at fresh 52-week side. I mean at 441, 442. We have upside target for this stock at around 455. While on the downside, we believe 433 is a very strong support. So that can be seen as a stop loss for an upside of almost 10 to 15 rupees for me.
Right, so these were picks coming in from our morning guest. Apart from this, one stock that will be in focus, it may not lead to some buying, but it's an important, point to highlight that, TCS, which had taken over the market cap to be the #1 company, may again be under the threat to lose it, and it will lose it to Reliance. It had taken over from Reliance, and now if you look at Reliance Industries, its market cap is 4.52 lakh crores after yesterday's move. In 3 months, it's up 33%, which has led to this market cap going closer to TCS, which is 4.57. Of course, TCS declares numbers today. That is something which is important for the stock, either on the upside or on the downside. But let's wait and watch. The reaction would only come in tomorrow. But if RIL just goes up by about 1% or so, then you could probably see that it could challenge TCS in terms of being the #1 market cap company in India. TCS results today, so let's just focus on results for a bit. In terms of rupee, revenues are expected at 29,893 crores, absolutely flat, 0.6%, 0.53% actually to be precise on a QOQ basis. Profit numbers are expected to be flat. Similar was the case with Infosys as well. In terms of EBITDA, 8,260 crores, that's what is seen on the EBITDA front, but also a lot of people look at EBIT generally nowadays. So 7750. So however you want to look. If you look at EBITDA, 8,260 crores is the EBITDA, 7,750 crores is the EBIT number. Dollar revenue is expected to grow by 1.9%. Remember, Infosys missed it by quite a bit of mark in terms of expectations. So the expectations have already got lowered. Even if there's a 10 to 15 basis point hit, I don't think the street would be much worried. For Infosys, there was a cross-currency headwind, but for TCS, there is a cross-currency tailwind of about 30 to 40 odd points. EBIT margins are seen at 25.9% versus 26%. So that's an important number. The key to watch out, they have a new CEO, Mr. N. Chandrasekaran, and move towards Tata Sons. So what are the priorities of the new CEO? It will be the first press conference where he will be addressing investors as well as media. Also, in terms of EBIT margins, this year they are expected to be closer towards the 26% mark, which is slightly towards the lower end of their guidance. So are they comfortable with this guidance of 26 to 28%? That is something to watch out for. And most of the other IT companies have given out a consistent payout policy. So what happens over there? Does TCS also announce it? Remember, they've already done a buyback. The buyback has got approval yesterday. It's the biggest buyback or largest buyback in terms of any major company doing a buyback. I'm talking about amount, not the 3% stake that they're looking to buy back. 16,000 crores in an absolute amount is the largest share buyback that TCS had approved. The shareholders have given 99.8% approval yesterday for TCS. Lancelot, in terms of TCS, do you think the buyback will support the price if there is any major miss on the TCS numbers?
Well, I think yes, it would, because then obviously there would be some amount of price arbitrage opportunity that would creep in if one gets it at a lower level and then you can offer it for buyback. So that would help in terms of stabilizing the price in case there's a miss by the numbers, and whatever negative impact is there could get cushioned by the buyback offer.
Right. Some of the other companies from the mid-cap space that will be declaring numbers. So, Muthoot Capital Services, off late, the stock has done well. HOEC, the stock has done well after crude prices have gone up. And VST Industries has also been a consistent performer, not that it's done well in the last 3 to 4 months. So, these are the other companies on the mid-cap space to watch out for in terms of numbers.
Of course, the markets will be watching very closely the Met Department's monsoon forecast. It's going to issue its first monsoon forecast for the 2017 Southwest monsoon. Remember, private forecasters like SkyMet have already predicted a below normal monsoon. The press conference is at 3 p.m. and we'll get you all the latest from the press conference. The Australian Meteorological Department has said that the El Nino thresholds may reach by July 2017. It was being believed that the El Nino will impact the monsoon in the latter half, closer to August, but now the threshold could be as early as July 2017. And statistically, when you have an El Nino year, the monsoon does get impacted and it's usually below normal. Now we focus on earnings, of course, and Group Finance came out with the fourth quarter earnings, which are pretty strong. Total income up 12.5% at 416 crore rupees. Profit after tax up 25% at 110 crore rupees. Their loan growth was up 19%. The operating profits up nearly 30%. Margins have also expanded, and the gross NPL ratio is steady at 0.31%. We will be speaking to the management of Group Finance at 10:15. Make sure you tune in to NDTV Profit to find out what went by in the fourth quarter and how the earnings were impacted.
Anisha, if we look at newspaper reports, one of the interesting newspaper reports is regarding Capital First, where reports suggest that Warburg Pincus, which is of course the promoter of the company who had bought their stake from Mr. Bayani, is looking to sell 10% stake into the company. Of course, they own more than 61% stake in the company, so they are the promoters of the company, and they have been one of the PE investors who have been backing Mr. V. Vaidyanathan, who is the CEO at the company. Back in 2012, 790 crores at 162 is where they had invested the company, where they had invested into the company, and CEO Mr. V. Vaidyanathan has been the face of this company with a 10% stake into this particular company. Let's also welcome in Ashish Chaturmoha. He's also joining us this morning. Ashish, good morning. What are your picks?
Hi, morning Pankaj. So I think broadly markets are in a sideways trend, but still there are stocks which are clearly in a strong uptrend, and once market stabilizes, we might see a strong uptick in these stocks. So my first pick would be a long idea on NCC, Nagarjuna Construction Company, which this stock has given a major breakout on the weekly and monthly charts above 94 levels, and we have observed a very strong buildup of open interest positions on the long side in last couple of trading sessions. Already we are witnessing a strong momentum in most of the capital goods and the construction companies. So I think this entire space is going to be in focus. So one can initiate a long position in NCC at current levels with a stop below 91, and upside can look for a target of 110, 112 in next 1 to 2 weeks. So my first long idea would be NCC. Second is a long idea on PSU Bank, which is Andhra Bank. This stock has formed a major double bottom formation and is on a verge of a breakout around the 60-61 mark. Once it crosses the 61 mark decisively, I think this stock has a potential to target somewhere around 72 to 74 levels in next 2 to 3 weeks. So one can start accumulating long positions in Andhra Bank at current levels, keep a stop below 56.50, and upside can look for a target of 72 to 74 levels. My third pick would be a long idea in Bajaj Electricals. This is one stock which we have already discussed last time, around 290 zone. So I think again at these levels we find it very comfortable because it is holding on to the positions, and I think there is a lot of delivery based buying which is happening in the stock. So one can initiate a long in Bajaj Electricals at current levels, keep a stop below 338, and upside can look for a target of 420 levels.
Right, these are picks coming in from Ashish. Markets should open anytime soon. 23 points is what the pre-open session is indicating. SGX was indicating an absolutely flat start. So let's see what happens, what are the levels at which the markets would open. Yesterday, of course, was a flattish sort of a day with mid-caps doing well. Today also is expected to be the same with the FII activity likely to pick up. These are first trades on your screen. Nifty is up around 23 points, 9163. So it's opened at the first resistance. It's beaten the pivot and opened slightly higher. Aurobindo Pharma has got an approval. It's a decent approval, $40 million with 5 players. So margin should be higher, 3 rupees higher for Aurobindo Pharma. Kotak Mahindra Bank flat, about 2 rupees decline, and HDFC Bank is slightly on the positive side. Cipla is down 2 rupees. Dr. Reddy's is up 6 rupees. Hero Motocorp absolutely flat. Grasim is up about 2 to 3 odd rupees. M&M absolutely flat at this moment. Dr. Reddy's is also on the positive side. Let's look at the real estate stocks and what's happening. So India Bull Real Estate on your screen. Again, it's into green. It's about 150, 150, 3, right, 50. Okay, it's actually all over the place right now. DLF is flat with a positive bias. Remember, DLF did not get any news flow yesterday, but it did pretty well after India Bull Real Estate going up. So that's 50 paisa for DLF on the higher side. Godrej Properties, volumes were okay when you compare it to other real estate names, but when you compare it to the average at which Godrej Properties trades at, volumes were pretty decent. So it's up around 2% right now, looking in good. Group Finance declared very strong set of numbers on most of the parameters. The stock was, in terms of numbers, was very, very good. There could be a positive upside over there. It's up about 7 odd percent right now, 395, 396 for Group Finance, about 2.5 lakh shares traded. Would not be surprised actually if it goes up further from here on. Capital First, no major reaction. Of course, it's news flow now, and the news flow very clearly states that they intend to sell. It's not that, it's a done deal. It's going to happen today, tomorrow, or day after. They intend to sell, so it may take some time before it happens. Muthoot Capital, they have a board meet today, one for results, and second is to also consider a bonus issue. It's done very well. It's up some 30% ahead of this board meet in the last 2 to 3 weeks. So that's a name which is doing well. Suzlon, it's a stocks in news, but really no change. It's around 20 rupees, 6.5 to 7 lakh shares traded for Suzlon. So not much that, one can read into that. Tata Steel is up 4.5 to about 5 odd rupees. Credit Suisse has a positive note. Plus there is news flow on Tata Steel. So that's doing well. Aurobindo has got an approval. 18,000 shares traded so far. It's slightly on the positive side. It's not particularly very, very high, but it's on the positive side. That's Aurobindo Pharma for you. Asian Paints, there were some concerns regarding, one newspaper reports which suggests that, one of the top promoters has resigned from the company, but, it's a professionally managed company, and, it's largely a process-driven company. That's why, not much has happened. Let's look at Delta Corp as well. That's up around 3.5 to 4 odd percent. So that's a name which has been slight in terms of correction. Why there was a correction is because there was expectation that, Daman, which is a union territory now, may be merged with Gujarat, but nothing of that sort has happened. So maybe that's why it's up around 3 odd percent. There were some rumors regarding that which had taken the stock on the slightly on the lower side, 3% higher for Delta Corp. Anisha, any other names that you can pick up?
Well, Pankaj, many stocks from the real estate space are really buzzing today as well. India Bull Real Estate up 4%. Unitech is up nearly 1.5%. HDL is up 1%. So a lot of these real estate names, even DLF on volumes is up about 0.5%. So the buzz around the real estate stock just continues. Then a number of the metal stocks are buzzing today. Hindalco, Vedanta, JSPL, Tata Steel, excuse me, on high volumes are seeing some action intact. Now, Texmo Pipes and Products was up more than 10% a day earlier today also. It's seeing good traction and it's up more than 7%. Amongst the real estate names, even Peninsula Land, Nitesh Estates and Ansal API are seeing good moves coming in today. So a number of these real estate stocks really buzzing today and have moved up well. Ashish, what do you make of the real estate names and how they're moving? What would you do with leaders like DLF, HDIL and even India Bull's Real Estate?
So yeah, I think the trend is clearly up, and obviously we are seeing a sharp uptake of 15-20% in a very short span of time. But that doesn't change the trend, because see, obviously these stocks have been a severe underperformers in the last rally of the market. So I think at current juncture, most of these stocks are poised for a stronger up move. Even if there is a pause or some profit booking because of a shorter term up move, I think this should be used as a buying opportunity. I think stocks like HDIL has a potential potential to test minimum 115, 120 kind of levels in days to come. India Bull Real Estate has already given a strong move, and I think if it comes around 140, 138 levels, that would be a good area to go long in the stock. Stock has a potential to test around 170, 180 zone. I think apart from that, NCC, Nagarjuna Construction Company, is one stock which looks very interesting to me. There I think a strong potential of this stock crossing 110, 112 levels.
All right. Shrikant, what do you make of the news coming in from TCS about a buyback? Was this just expected? What are you watching out for from the earnings, given that heavyweight Infosys has disappointed?
Well, I think the buyback is well known. I think it was just got cleared by shareholders, but it was, I think the contours of the buyback was known. It's about 3% of the overall equity, and so one of the largest ones in terms of that. They have given a buyback price which is higher. So I believe that will be a bit supportive for the price. The key would be what the guidance on the margins and what is the kind of growth guidance they give. They don't normally give a very clear guidance, but in terms of what the commentary will be, I think that's what one would like to see. So if it's in the 26-28% band, if they manage to maintain that kind of margins, I think that will definitely be positive. So any signs of that, I think one would want to look at that. Expectation-wise is more muted. I think on a QOQ basis there is not a significant expectation in terms of growth. But what they do say for the next year, I think that would be interesting to watch out for. And given that we've had a muted guidance from Infosys, a large part of it is got discounted. So even if there is a marginal, slip in terms of margins, I don't think that'll worry the street too much.
All right. So that's a view coming in on TCS. Lancelot, what do you do with some of the metal stocks that have been consolidating or correcting over the last few sessions or so, especially from the non-ferrous space, the likes of Hindalco, Vedanta, even NMDC? What would you do with these stocks?
Well, I think metals, have sort of shifted from the bear phase to a bullish phase, because we've seen commodity prices rise in the last couple of months, and with input costs remaining fairly stable, I think metal stocks should start to perform, especially those with a focus completely on the domestic economy outlook. There's also a move that the government spending will start now that the budget has been approved, and this year almost 60 to 70% of the spending will come in the first half, as we can see with the government borrowing program also being announced, and that would spur off again another demand cycle for the commodity stocks. So I think commodities, while the valuations have moved in line with markets rising, so they've been fairly valued at this point in time, but yet you're going to see some amount of growth coming in. So it's a question of the earnings actually catching up in with the rise in price. So that would see it, and then we would see them stabilize. But I don't think you're going to continue to see that very long-term bull run happen in commodities once again. It'll move to a level where it'll be stable for a while, and even earnings will stabilize or sort of peak out at that levels.
Right. Lavlesh, what is your call on Reliance Industries? It's back to the 1400 levels after going to 1350. Okay, I think there is a technical issue with that line. Ashish, what's your call on Reliance Industries?
So I think clearly on an uptrend, and I think we are observing this trend that whenever there is a profit booking of 3-4 trading sessions, stock is seeing a lot of buying interest. Again, this time when we saw this dip coming to almost 1350, it was with a very low volumes, and I think that's a very good trend which this stock is developing. So I think this stock has a potential to cross at least 1600 levels in days to come. So I think I would recommend a long position even at current levels. On downside, the immediate support would come to the levels around 1350, 1360. So keeping that as a stop loss, one can initiate a long, keep us and can look for a target of 1550 to 1600 in next few weeks or months.
Right. Last time you had pointed out about REC and how it is important for REC to close about 207 rupees a share. So it went to 214 yesterday, but then closed below 200. Does that change the near-term outlook?
No, so we have been recommending this stock since 140 odd levels, and I think that trend is clearly up. Obviously, it has seen a very stronger uptick, so there might be some time correction which might happen in these stocks. So it might take now time for the stock to cross this 220 levels, and which will be very healthy for the stock. So if it sustain in a range between 195, 196 on downside to 210, 215 on upside for at least 2-3 weeks, then I think that will create a very stronger uptrend in the stock. And in that situation, if it crosses 220, then I think the stock has a potential to test 250, 260 zone.
Right, but it's buy at you're positive at the current level as well, right?
I'm positive, but I'll say that you should use dips till 195 to accumulate the long positions.
Right, Lancelot, what's your call on REC PFC? Of late, these stocks have done well.
Well, actually, I don't really track these stocks in detail, so really difficult to say.
Right. Let's talk about IOC. That's also a stock which has done very well. Oil marketing companies, they are expected to deliver not that great set of Q4 numbers. Still, why these stocks are going up?
Well, I think the oil marketing companies will do well. When you look at the shift now that their pricing has moved to a daily basis, it will help them in terms of being able to adjust the minor changes in crude prices, and to pass on that to the customers. So that will help in terms of improving profitability from a structural perspective. And I think the demand or consumption for oil and gas is still increasing. It's one of the few products that you're seeing, maybe double-digit growth in volumes, and that should help, improve the reach as well as the volumes for the oil marketing companies. The important thing now is that the oil marketing companies have been freed from the working capital requirements that they had in terms of the subsidy burdens, and that is will allow them to have a lot of free cash flow which they can use for expanding their marketing reach into the smaller towns, and that would automatically give them a bigger footprint going forward.
But do you think that markets are not factoring in these things after the recent run-up, or still they are not very expensive considering some of the global companies?
I think they are not very expensive, especially when you consider the amount of underserved market that there is in the country, and the kind of expansion that would be needed to take care of the entire population which is moving. If you look at the total number of two-wheelers and four-wheelers being produced and sold every year, that is a huge market that needs to be served. So I think the market is not really factoring in the complete potential of this of these oil marketing companies, and as we see this grow, and once we see earnings continue to grow for the next couple of years, it will become much more apparent that these companies have a lot more to offer on the upside.
Right, Ashish, what's your call on real estate in terms of India bull real estate? Any levels to watch out for?
Yeah, so as I mentioned already, we have seen a very stronger uptick, so it might see some profit booking at these levels. But if the stock comes around 140, 138, that would be a very good area to go long in the stock. Stock has a potential to target somewhere around 160, 170 zone, because we have seen a very severe performance in this stock in last many years, and after a long time this breakout has happened. So I think this should sustain. Any profit booking should be used as an opportunity to go long in the stock.
Right. Any call on Vedanta, Hindalco? So they have had some underperformance, and now all these names are trying to make a comeback.
No, I think this is more of a some sort of short covering, and I don't think any clear visible uptrend is being seen, at least in a shorter term. So it will take time for these stocks to consolidate and see some kind of stronger uptrend.
But you don't see any negative divergence as well. So you don't expect massive corrections.
No, I think it should remain sideways at current levels.
Right. Shrikant, what will be your call on the steel sector, especially the large ones like JSW, Tata Steel? Do you look at them as buy after the recent correction?
For Tata Steel, we are a bit cautious, but we like JSW Steel. I think that's from a trading perspective, we're looking at a target about 207 there. So with a stop loss of 187. So we've given that call. From an investment perspective, also we continue to like JSW Steel. Among the other metal names, I would continue to like Hindalco. I think that looks attractive from a medium-term perspective. So the dips would be can be bought into from an investment perspective.
Right. In terms of IOC, what is your call, Shrikant? Would you be a buyer? It's now the second top gainer on the Nifty pack.
Yeah, we remain positive on IOC. I think, in fact, among the top three, as we last time also discussed, we would have a preference towards BPCL and IOC, and the preferred one is IOC among the top three ones. The overall OMC space does look good, but on a preference wise, in terms of price preference wise, I think IOC looks the best.
Yes Bank would declare numbers tomorrow. IndusInd will declare numbers tomorrow. What do you expect, Srikanth? Will they continue to be compounding machines?
So in terms of growth, I think obviously the private banks are expected to show strong growth, and IndusInd and Yes Bank are expected to deliver good performance. So there isn't much, I don't think there will be disappointment on the growth front. The problem, however, broadly is that the valuations are fairly well valued for probably IndusInd Bank. Yes Bank, we think there is room for more upsides given the kind of discount which it has compared to IndusInd or HDFC Bank, and the kind of growth trajectory which it has been in the 25-30% kind of growth which they have been able to sustain over the medium term. So I think there is room for upsides in Yes Bank.
All right. Lavlesh, do you have a view? Okay, I think we don't have him, but Ashish, do you have a view on IGL, Indraprasth Gas? A day earlier it saw a large candle and it seems to be at crucial resistance levels of about 1065. Where do you see this stock headed?
So I think this stock is poised for a move till 1200 odd levels, and I think it's a very strong trend which is being developed in the stock. So I think at current levels, even at current levels, one can initiate a long, keep a stop below 1050, and upside can look for a target of 1150 in a shorter term. And if one holds for next 2-3 weeks, I think stock has a potential to test 1200 levels. Apart from that, I think Petronet is one stock which is also in a very stronger uptrend, and I think that trend is also going to continue. We expect Petronet to test somewhere around 470-480 zone. On downside can keep a stop below 420 levels.
All right, so that's the view coming in on two gas counters. Have you had a look at the chart of Escorts and Lancelot? That stock has shown such strong performance all through the year and is trading near 52-week highs. How would you trade this counter? Do you think one should be now a little cautious on this counter, wait for the monsoon forecast to be come out and digested by the markets? How would you trade this stock?
I think from Escorts, if one has to look at it, it's more focused on the tractor segment. And if you look at the tractor segment, while the monsoon does impact sales on the tractor segment, I think the overall impact for tractors is, that growth is going to slow down going forward. So one should be a little cautious, especially since the stock has run up quite a bit, before taking up entry into Escorts.
All right, so be a little cautious on Escorts. That's if you're coming in from Lancelot. Srikanth, what about some of the automakers, especially the two-wheelers, TVS, Bajaj and Hero? What would you do with these counters?
I think some more range bound currently. I think we've seen also the impact of the vehicles where some of these companies have taken a knock on account of the Supreme Court order. So there will be some impact on the quarterly numbers of these, especially Hero, which has announced that it's got a serious impact on account of that. So we want to be a bit cautious here. The preferred one probably is TVS Motors from a growth perspective. From a longer term perspective, I think TVS Motors is the best.
All right, so TVS is preferred, and just as we were speaking, we've seen a sharp spike coming into the Nifty. The Nifty has now crossed the 9200 level and is seeing a gain of nearly 1% coming through. So our markets have seen a good jump up. In fact, amongst the Asian indices, our markets are clearly outperforming now. Let's quickly touch base on the biggest gainers on the Nifty today. We have seen strong moves from the metal counters, and we are seeing Hindalco. Now Adani Ports is topping the charts with gains of 4%. Hindalco is up 3.5%. GAIL has seen a good up move. Tata Steel and IOC are the other gainers of the day. The breadth also is looking pretty strong on the Nifty. We are seeing 44 counters trading in the green. Only a small amount of profit taking being seen in Coal India, Cipla and Bharti Airtel. Ashish, what would you do with some of the tire stocks? We've seen a good move coming into Apollo. It's nearly at 230 rupees a share. Would you buy any of these stocks, Apollo, CEAT, MRF? What's your view on the tire space?
Yeah, so I think Apollo looks very interesting. It has formed a major inverted head and shoulder on the weekly and the monthly charts and has given a fresh breakout about 230 marks. So I think this stock has a potential to test somewhere around 260, 265 in a shorter term. But broadly speaking, the structure is very, very interesting. I'll not be surprised to see this stock even crossing 300 mark in days to come. But at least in a shorter term, we expect stock to target somewhere around 265 levels. For that, one can initiate a long and keep a stop below 228 levels.
All right, seeing a good move for Apollo Tyres, and that is a stock that has done well. Amongst the capital goods stocks, Lancelot, both L&T and BHEL have had a reasonable run over the last few months. Do you think this space is headed for more gains? What would you do with the leaders there, BHEL and L&T?
I think the capital goods space is headed for a further up move, because as the government begins to implement a lot of its plans to build out infrastructure and improve, the power generation, so you will start seeing orders, being backed by these companies. So that would be positive for as far as BHEL. But when you look at L&T derives almost 40% of its sales from overseas. And the situation is a bit more volatile, especially in the Middle East, where L&T used to get a larger part of its business. However, the hydrocarbon business, which was one segment where L&T was losing money, seems to have turned around, and that should be positive for L&T. A key question in L&T is also its ability to unlock some of the assets that it has invested in, be it the investment made in the port, or some of the subsidiaries, whether it is Infotech or the financial services, and to look at maybe divesting part of these businesses so that it frees up cash for their core business, and that would add value to the business of the company, because as of now a large proportion of the capital is actually locked up in some of these assets that need to come back. Otherwise the return on earnings is not going to grow as anticipated, which could then impact the valuations.
All right.
Lancelot, Alisha, just before we move, I wanted to highlight about Reliance Industries. We spoke about the market cap of Reliance Industries, and I think it's just neck to neck right now. On an intraday basis, it's went up, and now it's absolutely flat. So if I look at Reliance Industries market cap at 1406 rupees, right now it's 7. At 1406 rupees, it is 4.57 lakh crores. So that's the market cap of Reliance right now. And if I now go back to TCS and I look at TCS at 2,321, which is the current market price, the market cap is 4.57 lakh crores. So that's essentially absolutely neck to neck right now. I think on an intraday basis, when TCS went down, it actually took out that level. Right now, it's absolutely neck to neck. So it's just a matter of time, maybe, that if it continues to see buying, then it may actually take that out. But tomorrow will also be an important day because TCS will declare numbers. So what happens on that front, how essentially the stock reacts to that, can also decide what is happening on this market cap front. But it's a close fight right now. Reliance was the earlier leader, TCS took it over, and now you get a sense that Reliance is likely to take it over again.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us on NDTV Profit and giving us all your ideas. As you go, please leave us with your disclosures. Lancelot, your disclosures?
I don't have any of the stocks which we spoke about, though my clients would be holding some of these stocks.
Srikanth, your disclosures?
No personal positions, but yeah, the clients may have maybe having positions, and may have recommended the same to the clients.
Ashish, your disclosures?
Yeah, few of the stocks which we discussed have been recommended to our clients. I do not have any personal holding in any of them.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us on NDTV Profit this morning.